Welcome to A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia and #1 best-selling author. In this podcast, I aim to give you practical tips on how to accelerate and sustain your health, increase your financial, spiritual and emotional wealth, and to look at something that haunts many of us needlessly, weight loss. In some episodes, I'll have guests available to give you even more tips, but in others, the floor is yours. Drop us a line at A Magical Life Podcast on Facebook and let me know what you would like to know more about. Now, sit back and enjoy, because it is time for you to create and truly discover a magical life. Welcome back to A Magical Life. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, and I'm joined today by the gorgeous Dufflyn Lammers. I have to tell you, I'm fangirling right now because just off air we were talking about a show she's been in, Criminal Minds, one of my favourites. We'll get to that in a moment. Dufflyn is a relationship and recovery coach, writer and speaker. She has extensive experience with addiction and how this can affect all of our relationships. She works with women who are struggling with fears of abandonment and or fears of intimacy. Wow, I know a lot of people like that. Hands up here, by the way. Me. She is an expert at helping women to embody their highest energy, something we love here at A Magical Life. She empowers her clients to embrace self-responsibility, clarity, and security of abundance. Her approach is client-led and non-judgmental. She leads workshops using improv games and creative writing to teach essential skills both online and in person. In addition to her training as a certified professional coach and certified Arise interventionist, she spent a year apprenticed to renowned Neo-Tantra teacher Dawn Cartwright. I have no idea what Neo-Tantra is. I will have to ask. She lives in Paris, France, and works remotely with clients all over the globe. She has been published in the LA Times, the Santa Fe Writers Project, the Iowa Women, and much more. Her essay, Tinder in Paris, won a silver medal in the love story category for the 12th annual Solace Awards in 2018. Dufflyn co-edited the spoken word anthology Chorus with Saul Williams in 2014, published by Simon & Schuster. She's appeared in Russell Simmons' Deaf Poetry Jam on HBO, Criminal Minds on CBS, Entourage on HBO, and in Belly from Artisan Films. Her one-woman show, Discovered, was a 2017 Duonde Distinction Award nominee. Wow. And in its debut at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. She's now at work on her memoir, and her personal website is www.dufflyn.com. Welcome, Dufflyn. Wow, I need a holiday after that bio.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much for reading it, Magic. It was magical.
Great. Now, come on, Criminal Minds. You have to tell the listeners who you played.
So I think it was 2006. I played a Southern belle whose husband has just been murdered in the wake of Katrina. So it was the Katrina episode, if you've seen that one.
I've seen them all.
Yeah.
As I said, fangirling right now. I mean, you got to be around the great Thomas Gibson. So, yeah, enough said.
Sadly, I didn't get to meet him because my scene originally was with Thomas Gibson. And then at the last minute, the day I arrived on set, they changed it. And my scene was with Shamar Moore and I forget what the gal's name with the dark hair.
Paget Brewster.
That's it, with Paget Brewster. And she was lovely. And it was really funny because Shamar didn't know that I was playing this character, and he's a childhood friend. So I came on set and he...
poor thing.
I know, right? So I came on set and he walked in and he was like, "Hi, my name is" holy cow.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, it was good times.
Now, here at A Magical Life, we try and bring as much knowledge and information to our listeners as we can. And I always ask the same three questions of all of the guests because it gives us a really rounded perspective on three things in life being health, wealth, and weight loss. So, can you tell us what your expertise can teach people about accelerating health, be it emotional, spiritual, or physical?
And I love that you talk about emotional, physical, and spiritual health, because it really is so integrative. And I love that point of view. And for me, I'm a relationship and recovery coach. And I come from the point of view that we're all recovering from something. So, whether that's adverse childhood experiences or grief and loss, or you had a stroke or you broke your leg, or people pleasing or trauma or issues around food or money or sex or dating or substances or whatever, we're all recovering from something. And I believe that the quality of our relationships determines the quality of our lives. So every area of health and well being is affected by our relationships. Um, and I remember when I was about 16 years old, I read this book called Women Who Love Too Much. You may have read it. Some of your listeners may have read it, or maybe I'm dating myself. And I knew, when I read this book, I knew I was one of them. I was 16 years old and I was in love for the first time, and it was making me crazy. And I had no resources. I had nobody to guide me. I just wanted to love and be loved, but I struggled and I suffered and I used all sort of unskillful coping mechanisms to get through what felt really intolerable for me for a number of years. And eventually, when I was about 23 years old, I quit drinking. Things got a little bit better, but I was still unpartnerable. I still really, really struggled. And eventually, I quit drugs too, still miserable, and for the most part, single. So I read all the dating books and I did all the workshops and I did hours and hours of therapy. And and I had such resistance. And the truth is, one day I finally just had enough. And I realized I had reservations. I had been unwilling to give up my own way of doing things. And I had this idea that love should just happen to me, like I felt it did to everyone else. So I finally just sort of surrendered to the truth that the relationship I really needed to work on was the one I have with myself. And the funny thing is that it was maybe a year later that I actually met my partner, Benjamin, who I now live with in Paris. So what I want to do in terms of my work is sort of pull back the curtains so that other women can see their own truth, whatever that is for them. And I have a specific process that I lead them through that facilitates that. So that, I can be sort of that guide, that mentor, that big sister that I didn't have, back when I was that 16-year-old girl. And coaching is about creating sort of like a safe base that we can explore from so that we can create that self responsibility, self intimacy, and self esteem that changes how we look at everything else. And a big part of that is about our physical health. And because I feel like right now, I mean, maybe you can relate to this. We're in our devices all the time, and we're zooming and we're driving the car and we're in the city and we're on the concrete, and we lose touch with our bodies and we become sort of anesthetized, um, even if we're not overeating or taking drugs or drinking or any of that. It's just so easy to become anesthetized. And it's sort of like if you're standing in a front row at like an Iron Maiden concert and the person next to you is trying to speak and you can't hear much, right? But if it suddenly went silent, the person would sound like they were screaming. So that's sort of like what I feel like is happening sometimes. So we can work at the physical level of becoming more present in our bodies and use various practices for that so that we can become more sensitive again, and that improves physical, emotional, and sexual health.
I totally agree with you there. We become so caught up in our day to day that we become numb to what's going on around us, to our own feelings, our own emotions. I work in physical health, and I see people that come in so disconnected from their bodies that they think the pain they're experiencing every day is okay and normal. And, I say, "What are your pain levels out of 10?" They go, "Oh, 9. It's always like that." Why? Why is it always like that? Why do we accept anything less than the best?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Why why is that okay? Like it's this sort of, people are talking about the new normal, especially with what's going on right now in the world with the pandemic and everything. And that's a whole new level of stress, and anesthetization that we're all facing at the same time. And it doesn't have to be that way, which is why I feel like a lot of these practices in terms of getting back in our bodies can just be so valuable on every level. And they certainly change our relationships as well.
I totally agree with you there. This new normal, why? Why is that our new normal? To not be able to hug people and release oxytocin in our bodies, the nurturing hormone, if you're wondering what that is. Why is it the new normal not to see someone smile at you as you walk through the park? Why is it the new normal that we have to be taught to wash our hands? Like, the new normal, sorry, I'm not up for it. It's just not making sense to me. And I think more people need to go, with everything that's going on in the world, what is the one relationship I have to focus on? The one with myself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all the time, which, maybe that's the wonderful opportunity of this crazy situation that we find ourselves in, is that yes, we have to focus on our relationship with ourselves. And it's so obvious now that that's, the source of all the other relationships.
But also it gives us a chance now to focus on our families, the people around us that we love and care for. Like, actually connect
Mm.
with them now. Whether it's sitting down at dinner and discussing the day's events, or playing a board game, or going for a walk together. Do something to connect. You've never been given a more precious time than now to do that. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. And it's funny, there's a British journalist who, he did a TED talk and he talked about how the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. And I feel like that's true for so many things. Like the opposite of whatever ails us is connection. And yet it's so difficult for us to figure out right now, because a lot of the ways that we usually connect are sort of taboo. We can't shake hands here in Paris. We can't faire the bise. They do the two cheek kisses, and we're standing 6 feet away from each other and all of that. So we're having to be creative and look at new ways of connecting. But it's also showing us how deeply connected we all are, and how basic and important that is in terms of, all kinds of health.
I totally get you there. Totally. Now, what are your top 3 tips to create wealth? When we talk about wealth, we're not just talking finances, we're talking personal and emotional wealth as well.
Yeah, and I love that perspective. I really do. I feel like, one thing that I want to talk about, because I work with a lot of women who are single and who are dating. And with the COVID thing, there's also been a lot of couples who, and it's usually I'm working with the woman, um, being in lockdown together and going through all this stress together. A lot of couples, it either brings us closer or it tears us apart. So there's just been, so much stress, and so much more stress too around the finances. So I feel like financial intimacy is an area of, money, money health, that we just don't talk all that much about. And one of the things, I wrote an article about this for an online magazine called The Fix, called Sex, Money, and Power in Recovery. And one of the things that I talk about is keeping your financial conversations, your conversations about money, separate. So if you're going out for a date night You're not going to sit there and talk about the budget or your financial woes. Enjoy your time and connect with your partner, and set aside a specific time, like make a date and a time with your partner. Maybe it's a monthly, family meeting, to talk about your budget, to talk about, what are our financial goals together, what are we aiming for, what do we need to do, and talk about what that looks like, but at a scheduled time, which is especially important for men, to say to a man, I would like to discuss this, whatever it is, and when is a good time, and to actually set a time and stick to it and sit down and do it, is one way to create more financial intimacy. And it's just, it's a scary thing. And a big part of that, which is leading to my second tip regarding wealth and abundance, is about clarity. So having clarity with another person is on a whole nother level. And that begins with having clarity with yourself, just like we talked about in terms of relationships. Having the kind of clarity of knowing where your money is going, where your money comes from, and where it's going, and just sitting down and having a budget. A lot of people never do this or balance their checkbooks, and sometimes it's as simple as having a little pad of paper in your purse and writing down where you spend money every day. Because sometimes it seems like, oh, it just disappeared. It's burned a hole in my pocket, and there it goes. So having that kind of clarity about exactly what you're spending your money on, so that you can then make choices, because that's what clarity gives you, is the power of choice. And I feel like that's a big thing too for a lot of my clients, is just to feel empowered, to feel like they have the power of choice, and they're not at the effect of whatever is happening around them, but they're um, empowered, they're making choices, and they're having an effect on the outcome of whatever happens in their lives. And then the third thing I want to talk about is dating with an abundance mindset. And I feel like this is really important. And it's actually important once you're in a relationship as well, which is to say, having the mindset that there are many possible partners out there for you, that there are lots of different people who could be a great partner for you, that you could love and who could love you. And rather than living in the mindset of scarcity of, oh, this is the only person who will ever love me, therefore I must accept whatever this person deigns to throw at my feet. Um, that's no way to live, whether you're dating or in a relationship, right? So when we can come from that mindset of abundance, we just have a lot more, again, power of choice.
Totally. And I don't know if Dufflyn noticed, but I was taking notes right then.
That's so cute.
So, what I find, especially in times like we have at the moment, is for those of us dating, the online dating is the only way to do it, really. And, instead of just swiping left constantly, swipe right, take a chance. There might be one thing in that profile that you think, I want to explore that a bit more. You've got nothing to lose. You can't meet up with them at the moment. There's absolutely nothing to lose. Just jump in feet first and talk to 7 people online. It's okay. You're not throwing yourself out there. You're just testing the waters and seeing what's available because you're worth it. And Mr. or Miss Right might be the 8th person, and the first 7 might just be the practice shots. So give it a go. You've got absolutely nothing to lose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's actually a really beautiful time for dating because we're forced to take it slow in a way, in a brand new way. And when we're forced to take it slow, we really sort of reevaluate our values and where we're coming from, which is again going back to that relationship with yourself of like, what am I really looking for? And I know I can't rush out and, you know, see this person and have a fling. So I guess I've got to see what's really there. And so we're like, there's really just a beautiful invitation in that, if you ask me, to go deeper and and just kind of reevaluate that whole thing. And like you said, take a chance. Um, I feel like when it comes to online dating, which is this is a whole conversation, but but I feel like when it comes to online dating, we have to look at it almost like marketing. And if we can look at it like, okay, now before I ever got on the phone with this person, I'm the product. Now how do I market me? And because listen, the way that Forever 21 markets and the way that Versace markets is very different, you know, and getting clear about, okay, what is it that I have to offer? And then representing that authentically, so it's not, when I say marketing, I'm not talking about, you know go and put lots of filters on your pictures and make yourself, look like something different from what you are. I'm actually talking about the opposite of representing what you authentically have to offer in a way that showcases, yes, the best of you, but also authentic you.
And my top tip there, listeners, on online dating is be true to yourself, because eventually you are going to meet these people, and you actually want to be able to stand in your ground and stand by your beliefs and your values. I'm not one for this whole pandemic thing. I've got a lot of views on that. So, I don't want to spend my whole time going, oh, isn't the world different? Oh, like the whole conversation with a guy online about that, my brain is going to switch off in a second. I want to know, what did you do today? Did you go for a walk in nature? Do you have a pet? Do you have kids? Like, I want to know the stuff that matters to me. So I actually changed my online profile recently, and it was a little bit controversial. And I thought, before I hit enter, should I do this? And I thought, hell yeah, I should, because I want the best for me. And if filtering out people that believe a certain thing or slaves to a particular idea or agenda, that's not for me. But if they want to get online and talk about walking through the park and seeing a bird, that's for me. Like, I really want to use this time to narrow down who I'm talking to. So definitely stay true to your values. Put something controversial on your bio, whether it's Tinder or Bumble or whatever you're using, and filter out the crap. Sorry, I said it. But, there's a lot out there. Just filter it out. Save yourself the bother.
Oh my God, just amen, magic. I mean, I'm like to everything that you said. I'm super excited. I'm doing a happy dance because that's it. That's the whole. It's Shakespeare. To thine own self be true. No one said it better.
I think I might put that on my profile too.
And I love this idea of something controversial because yes, if that's what you truly believe, like why wait until you're, 6 months into a relationship for them to find out that, you hate dogs or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they might as well know now.
Through
Bring it.
experience, Dufflyn, I was seeing a guy for 2 weeks, and it was, all great. And we were meeting up for walks and, because I love walking. So we were doing that. And then he said something, and I looked at him, and it was like my head was spinning on my shoulders. And I thought, if that's what you think, there's no way we can progress from here. So now I've put it on my profile.
Perfect. I think that's beautiful.
Now, we do talk about something that's plagued many women and men for centuries, I would have to say. If you've ever battled your weight, what was the trigger to lose it? Or what can you offer our listeners to reduce their stress around life? Because we know that stress is a key issue in weight loss.
Yeah. And I love that question. Stress is a key issue with a lot of things. It's the number one killer in the world. And it's the number one cause of relapse for people who are in recovery. And there's a lot of stress eating going on right now. I for one, I've got my hand up. And what I know about stress is this: everybody is sort of born with a cup. So this is like the metaphor for your stress container. And we wake up empty, and all day there are little drops being collected in our cup. And so you get up in the morning and you realize you have no clean shirts, and there's a drop in the cup because you're stressed out because you're going to be late for work. And you drive to work, and then there's traffic, there's another drop in the cup. And you get to work, and there's some sort of a problem, there's another drop in the cup. There's no internet, there's another drop in the cup. And so the drops in the cup keep collecting throughout the day. And more drops in the cup equal less connection with the body. So here again, we become further and further from our truth and our reality and our physical sensation and our presence. And what we need to do is empty the cup by doing things that decrease stress. So we can sort of drain the cup. And there are lots of different things that decrease stress, like hobbies, knitting, or whatever, with gardening, dancing. Positive affirmations can reduce stress. Sleep is a really good one. Food and hydration, just really, good self-care. We can also decrease the drops in the cup and decrease stress with less exposure. So less technology, less pressure at work, um, you know, creating time where we turn off the computer. Sometimes I have one friend, she puts a blanket over her desk and her computer so that she isn't tempted to go back and read emails at midnight. Um, and also internal self-talk, how we talk to ourselves can either cause stress or reduce stress depending on what that looks like for us. And we can train ourselves to have a bigger cup, and how we do that is with meditation. Meditation has been huge for me. It's changed my life completely. I started a daily meditation practice about 10 years ago. And for me, that created more emotional regulation as well as stress relief than anything else that I've ever done. All that therapy and all those books that I read, if I had just started meditating when I was 16 years old, it could have saved me a lot of trouble, and a lot of boys a lot of trouble too. But, it is what it is.
So true. Now, for anyone out there battling their weight, yes, the cup metaphor is great. And so when you say things like, I'm fat, you are putting more than one drop in that cup. When you say things like, I will never wear that again, you're putting more than one drop in that cup. So really look at the things that you're saying out loud, the things that you're saying in your own mind, the things that you say to other people about yourself. Don't be self deprecating, because that is all adding to that cup.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this goes back to that negative self-talk. And for a lot of us, I feel like the way, anyway, for me, the way I've worked on that and have worked on it with clients is we start with the meditation, which is a sort of emptying, right? My meditation teacher talks about this metaphor of like, when we meditate, it's as if we have a jar of sand and water, and all day long we're shaking it, we're shaking it, we're shaking it. It's cloudy, it's cloudy. When you sit down and meditate, it sits down, the sand settles at the bottom, and we have that clarity, again, the clarity. And when that happens, we can then receive new ideas. So then we can do the affirmations that will create a new belief system, a new internal working model, a new, way of talking to ourselves, so that we can be supportive and be our own biggest fan. Because I don't know about you, but I think I'm friggin' Beyonce. Like, I'm awesome, I am amazing. And I don't think that because like someone taught me how to be that way. I worked hard for that, you know? And it's not, I'm not talking about, narcissism. There's a big difference between being confident and being arrogant, you know? But loving yourself and being confident and being willing to just let your freak flag fly, and like, like you talked about, and being true to yourself in every way. I mean, I feel like that's the secret. If we could just bottle that, can we bottle that?
Let's work on it. I'm up for it.
I don't know. I have it in my mind right now. I'm like the little jar with the sand and maybe some jasmine oil. I don't know. What else can we put in there?
Let me get back to you on that one because now my mind's going.
Right?
Totally. Now, look, we love giving our listeners freebies here because we're action takers. So make a decision, take the action, do the thing, and we're going to give you something that will help you with that. So, Dufflyn, you have a free e-workbook. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I do. This is my heart offering to you and to your listeners. And it's an e-workbook, so you can download it really easily. And it's called The One Thing You Need to Stop Doing Right Now If You Want Healthy Relationships and What to Replace It With. So, one thing I know about making any kind of a change is that if I put down one thing, I'm going to pick up something else. So, I want to help the readers of the e-workbook to see, okay, here's what it is that I've been doing that's a pattern that's not working for me anymore. And here's what I'm going to replace it with. So I talk about the 4 A's, and this is really helpful when dating and also in relationships: attractive, appropriate, available, and abundant. So that's what we want to look for in a partner, and that's also what we want to be. So the workbook sort of goes into that, and it's a way to explore that for yourself and then kind of figure out, okay, what changes do I need to make for myself?
And where can the listeners find this freebie?
So it's on my website, which is just dufflyn.com. I'm like Rumpelstiltskin. If you can spell my name, you can find me. It's Dufflyn.
Terrific. Thank you so much for coming on today. I have to say to the listeners, we had a bit of a time difference glitch, and I've been chasing Dufflyn for a week and chasing myself. Like, I'm not putting any blame here because I didn't check the world clock.
Thank you for your patience with me. I really appreciate it. It's been such a pleasure. And yeah, I feel like I was just over here chasing my own tail. Like I did not know literally which direction the world was turning.
So a tip for the listeners here is things happen, things go wrong, but you will get there. Don't give up because here we are talking to the wonderful Dufflyn. Thank
That's
you,
right.
listeners. Thank you, Dufflyn.
Amazing. Yeah, that's right. We can do hard things.
Now, coming up in episode 23, we actually have a surprise guest. So I'm not going to tell you a lot about it, but let me just say there are some gems coming up. In future episodes, we have the whole food medicine man, Don Tolman, joining us. We have Benjamin J. Harvey from Authentic Education joining us. We have some of my health mentors coming and joining us. So definitely keep listening, keep subscribing, sharing this with your friends, and write a review. Now, if there is someone that you would like me to talk to, definitely suggest it on our Facebook page, A Magical Life Podcast, and send us a message if you want. If there's a topic you want me to cover and dive into, pop it down there. And certainly, if you want to know something else about relationships or finding a relationship or how you put it out there, the partner that you want, pop that down because I'm sure Dufflyn and I can talk for hours and we would love to bring you what you want to hear. Again, thank you for your listening time and go out and create your magical life. Thanks for listening today. Please subscribe to hear future episodes, leave a review, and share this podcast. You can follow us on Facebook at A Magical Life Podcast or at Holistic Natural Health Australia. That's holistic with a W. You can find us on Instagram at Holistic Natural Health or at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. That's where you'll access all sorts of articles, freebies, and more.